Hey guys, happy new year and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started today, I'm actually just making a peppermint frappuccino because we can't afford to buy Starbucks all the time, right? And then we're gonna get started on today's episode, which will cover everything about express entry over the last couple of years and what I predict it will look like for 2021. Okay guys, so this episode is going to be data packed, but not overwhelming. I'm recording this on the 3rd of, today's the 3rd? Yeah. On the 3rd of January, I was supposed to have done this and had it ready and uploaded on the 2nd of January, but you know, sometimes we have to rest. Everything based on my How Much Do You Know About Canada episode, you know, I find on www.canada.ca. So I give all credit to the government for the information that I'm going to be sharing. So we're going to be looking at data for 2017, 2018, 2019. You'll see I don't have a lot for 2020, particularly because the annual report for 2020 is not yet due. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the number of persons who generally enter the pool. If we looked as far back as 2015, we will see that initially the numbers weren't as high as they are now. So every year you see an incremental increase. Generally speaking, about 30 to 35% of the persons who do get into the pool do not even qualify. They are ineligible for whatever reason. In terms of the value for French, now I keep telling persons, learn French, learn French, learn French. And the truth of the matter is that in 2017, French could give you between 15 to 30 additional points. Not many persons have claimed French since, I'll let you know, but we have seen an increase in the number of persons claiming French. French is not necessarily just useful just to get here. This is a bilingual country, and so it's important that you can speak French. I started on Duolingo last year. It never really worked out as planned, so I'm going to be doing it again this year. So I'll probably come and be like, bonjour. Is bonjour French? I think. Anyways, so the fact of the matter is that French is so useful because I've seen a lot of positions within government and outside of government where bilingualism is an asset. And I want to stand out, especially because as immigrants, it's not as easy to just come in and compete against persons who they went to school here and they have work experience here. So you have to find a way to stand out from the pack. Now, in most recent times, French proficiency has gone all the way to like 50 additional points. So this is something where, you know, if you are having issues with your points as is, then maybe French is the way to go. There is no way you can lose from learning French, and not just French to say bonjour like me, but actually being proficient in French, even just to have a basic conversation with someone. One area that I've found based on the data where persons claim additional points would be having prearranged employment. Now, that's not something that is extremely easy. There are some areas that is easier for them to get employment prior to coming to Canada. But for many of us, where, I mean, our fields are kind of just common, I mean, what for us talk it as it is, you know, it's not going to be as easy to get employment outside of Canada, especially without you having your PR, right? Now, if you do have permanent residence and you're outside of the country and you're applying, it's still hard, but can you imagine, you know, you not even qualifying? Some companies don't want to put themselves through the possible expense and the time that it will take to get you here when you do have talent here. Hey guys, quick and fast, you know the drill. If you haven't already purchased a copy of my book, it is available for purchase on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle options. Please support. Moving on to processing times. No, my application, hold on. I got invited on March 14th, which was the highest draw for 2018, might I add. I got invited in March. I think I submitted it at the end of May. So like May 30th or 31st. And so let's start counting from June. So that's June, July, August, September. And then October 4th, I got invited. So that was like 4 months and a couple of days. Now, I have a cousin who got invited in like 3 months. I've heard of persons invited in shorter periods. I don't know how, but on average for 2017, for the federal skilled worker program, you're looking at 4 months. For 2018, it went to 6 months. 2019, 9 months. And I'll tell you, I believe that because you don't have like an ever increasing number of staff working with IRCC processing your applications. So that would also account for the lengthy period. I think in 2019, as a matter of fact, for the federal skills trade, they were waiting like up to 12 months for their applications to be processed. So the most desirable provinces I have found to be Ontario, BC, and Alberta. I'll tell you too that it doesn't necessarily mean that these are the only destinations that persons are going to. Under the provincial nomination program, it's a little different. I believe in 2017, Saskatchewan was, I think, in third. Yeah, so it was Ontario, BC, then Saskatchewan. For 2018, for the PNP, it was Ontario, BC, and Nova Scotia. But generally speaking, for just the wider federal skilled worker program, you're looking at Ontario, BC, and Alberta. I wanted to go to Alberta because of cost of living and the thought that I could probably have bought my house by this, but everything happens for a reason. I'm happy that I'm not there. Yes, cost of living is better, but then their winters are also brutal, and anybody who knows me knows I do not like winter. No, the settlement funds, this is where I'm going to have to drop in a little slide with the 2021 figures, because as I said to you before, while I'm recording this, of course, we don't know what the figures are going to be looking like. So for 2020, for one family member, you had to have 12,960. And I always have to stress this, by one family member, it means just you, right? For 2 family members, that would probably be like yourself and your spouse. If you don't have children, that's 16,135. And for 3 family members, let's say you have 1 child with your spouse, that's 19,836. Now, let's get into the draws. Wow, 2020 scared me. I think there was one particular draw that I looked at it and I was like, well, I would not have been invited. You know, I know persons who've been waiting and waiting and waiting, hoping, can this just go down a little bit more? The IRCC had no mercy. I think what happened though is that, you know, because we did have like a lag for a few months in terms of invitations not being sent out, you would have found that there are more persons who sat in the pool for a while. Because the very last draw that took place, I looked at the number of persons in the various categories and I was like, whoa, okay, so all the persons with the high scores are mostly gone. And it's just unfortunate that at this point now, it's the last draw for the year. And so what that means is that for the other persons who've been waiting patiently, who are so close and would have been invited, had it been a case where maybe we had a few more draws earlier on during the craziest phase of COVID-19, they would have been invited, right? But unfortunately, it was not to be. So what did the draws look like for 2018, 2019, and 2020? Yes, I dropped 2017 this time because, as I said, I want to use a 3-year period. And to be honest, I probably should have done the 2017, but we never really do that. So yeah, it is what it is. We're going to go with 2018, 2019, 2020 because, of course, I have the 2020 figures right here. So for 2018, the first draw was 446. There are so many persons I know with a 446 right now. I can't tell the last time we've seen a 446 because it wasn't in 2020. But anyways, the lowest draw, which is also the very last draw. The very last draw is normally, to me, one of the lowest, if not the lowest for the year. Anyways, for 2018, the lowest draw was 439, and that was actually held on December 19. Now, the highest draw was the draw that I was in, which was on March 14, and it was 456. And I was like, okay, I knew I was invited. Now, for 2019, the first draw was on January 10th, and the cutoff score was 449. The lowest draw, funny enough, was even lower than the lowest in 2018. Because the lowest draw in 2018, as I said, was 439, and the lowest draw in 2019 was 438, and this was on January 30th. I don't know if this was what kind of had people like, whoa, I have to reach in. But they reached in, and the lowest draw was 438, but that was not to be seen again, because the highest draw was 475 on my birthday, October 30th, 2019. And the very last draw was 469. It wasn't the lowest. That also tells you how competitive things were getting at that point. I look at it now and I feel like we should have used that. When I started out 2020 and saw the first cutoff score, I was so optimistic that things were going to really improve. The first draw was 473, and that was definitely higher, but then that would have definitely been a reflection of how the pool of candidates was looking. Things were getting very competitive, but I feel that in the earlier part of a year is when you find that most of the persons with their high scores come in trying to get through, because of course the processing time, it may take them perhaps most of that year. So they want to get things going for themselves so that within the year they can look to be moving, right? So I find that earlier on in the year, most persons are preparing to make their move that year. The lowest score, which is also the last score, was 468. It's still high, but if you notice, it's still also lower than the last score of 2019. And as I said, looking at the composition of that batch of persons who were invited, I saw where at that time the pool was not as saturated with persons with extremely high scores. But I'm looking at it with a lot of caution, because I believe that a lot of persons were slowed down. I know persons who I've interacted with because of this very channel, who they've been slowed down because in their country of residence, they're not even able to do their language exam. And these are persons with, really good scores, right? With the exception of the fact that, they don't have their official language results. But I'm curious to see what 2021 will bring. I believe that with multiple vaccines on the market and travel being something that especially later on this year, is set to improve, that we may find that, as I said, earlier on in the year, the scores will look very shady. Processing times may look like they're taking a little longer. And as I said, we don't know what happened in 2020 just yet, so I can't speak with any certainty. But I feel like for 2021, later down in this year, we're going to see scores that are going to be more inviting. I believe, though, that you can't plan on anything, because you have to think about people's personal situations. And there are persons right now who, because of the pandemic, their lives have been shifted. Persons who perhaps they weren't even sure of moving to Canada. They're in a place now where they really are very ready to move. They want to see new opportunities. No, I'm not here to tell you that Canada is a bed of roses. Far from it. I believe that I am a living testimony that, some persons may come here and they may get their big bus really soon, and many of us, including myself, will have to suffer and we'll have to really press on, and it will take a lot of grit and a lot of mental fortitude in order to do that. but I believe it's possible. I'm still optimistic, and I'm hoping to be able to share that testimony with you soon. We said 2021 has to be the year that I push forward and do bigger things than I've done before. And I encourage you to do the same. If you're interested in getting more information on express entry to Canada, please let me know. I'm coming up soon with some Q&As. And again, I haven't done that in a very long time, but we're going to watch and see what's happening. I wanted to just kind of paint a picture for us to really use this as a reference point so we know what exactly can come. Of course, as I said, for the early part of the year, I don't know what to expect yet. I think after the first couple of draws, we'll really see what's happening. But it's very possible that the first couple of draws could definitely still be high. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. I promise you we're going to have some new, fresh, exciting content this year. At least I'm going to try. I thank you for your support, and I promise you I'm going to bring you more of those things for 2021. Catch you soon. Bye.